Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus Three Futures and Commodities Show. This is our weekly podcast. This is the early abbreviated edition. We are recording 5 o'clock on Thursday evening, the 8th of May. Barry and I are both traveling, so we're doing an early abbreviated show. My name's Ben Maldonado, and Barry Hederachi, my partner, is here with me. How we doing, Barry?
Doing great, doing great.
We got some action in the market this week, and we're going to do like we said, an early abbreviated show. So let's dive right in. I see you got the front month, the June contract up there on the ES.
Yeah, the old faithful, eh? Well, the final bar's in place.
Hmm.
And last week we talked about the 55.65 level. I'm sorry, the 56.05 level right there in green. And the zone, that's kind of a little catch-all zone. From the below, that was a zone, and from above, that would be the zone. As it turned out, it was we didn't even need a zone. It was really 56.05 that played the role. You can see all the bars are right along it. And so anyway, we ended up above it last week. And then I said, long as we're above this 56.05 level, the market's in pretty good shape, and we could grind higher or just drag us higher, or however way it's going to take us. And we drew up the little ABCD, which gives us a little bit of a Gartley box in here somewhere in this area. And so this week, we went up, we went down, then we went back up. We basically cleaned up this zone. I mean, I only had two levels on the board, basically 56.05 and 57.93. And up until today, we've been sort of inside the box mostly. And even today, after that spike, the run up, and we turned around and we look at that. We'll look at that in a couple of different ways. We're back in the zone. So I think, long as we're in here, above 56.05 basis the daily, and this is the June contract. I think long as we're in this space, I think it's bullish in the sense that we're above this really key level, and we certainly got above the 90-degree level, 55.17 in a hurry. So market's in a pretty good place. The only catch here is that we're up against resistance. We're up at a quarter of a square. So I'd say the next job the market has to do is really, somehow get on top of this, settle on top of it, and to see if we can get to the 50% level, or, we stall here and consolidate and maybe go back and check lower levels. I mean, those are kind of the choices. We'll watch out for that. But for now, I think long as we're above this, shorting is a little bit risky, as you guys have seen this week. Or if you do, take your profits, as we hit support
And make
on
sure you have Trump's social media account that you follow it and have alerts on that one. Hey,
because
Barry, that's 56.93, right? Not 57?
sorry, yeah, 56.93. Are we
Okay.
forecasting here? I don't know what happened. I think the computer's got, got a mind of its own. Yeah,
Maybe.
the thing with Trump social is that even if you don't follow it, everybody else is, so you never know. All the algos are following, blah, 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 right? So something
Like it or
comes
hate
out,
it, it moves markets, and
it moves
so
markets.
you got
Yeah,
to be aware.
absolutely. Anyway, for starters, that's what's happening on the in the futures contract. Let me go back and look at, well, here's the continuation chart of the same. And here we talked about 57.51, 57.50, and that is 270 degrees up from the October 22 low. So this is the key level, and we talked about it last Friday being, this is the place where we meet all the overhead. This is the beginning of the overhead part, right? And then we have another one at 58.92. That area has a balance of it, but this is the beginning of it. I mean, and we know we have price and time going into this spot, and I marked out that zone, so we're kind of in there. We're in the right spot. Really, nothing. I'm not going to expect anything epic till we can get on top of it. I mean, really need to get on top of this 57.51, as you can see. I mean, without that, it's high risk because we could easily pull back to correct before moving higher if that's what's in the cards, and it looks like that's what's in the cards. Yeah. So anyway, that's my take on the continuation chart, the levels that we have here. What else can I say here? Well, 55.66, you can see how we held well above it yesterday, on that downdraft. So it looks like it's got a little bit of punch left. Anything you want to add to that?
Those look good. Looks like we tapped that 270 today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're right, getting above that's key.
Mm-hmm. Because we're there, right? It's a key level. Now, looking at the cash chart, this is the one we follow. Again, we had this level marked off for resistance earlier, in which it was. You can see how we stalled in April. After that low, we came up here and stalled and gapped above it, ran up to the next level, 56.97, and we've been in a bracket between those two levels, right? We came back yesterday. We came back to the zone and 55.82. Checked the lows and we bounced today. So what's the trend here? We're making higher lows and higher highs. So, that defines the trend and looks like the trend is up till we hit resistance, which this happens to be. Just like we talked about in the futures chart, we need to really at this point get on top of it, right? We need to get on top of 56.97 and, go up and test the 50% level, which is around 57, let's say 57.86. And
Do that right around the 19th of May.
is that a rebel yell? Is
That's
it
the it's coming up. Yeah.
coming up? Okay.
And
Yeah, that will
also
be,
it's also your 90 right there.
yeah, there is a 90 coming up. That's true. So yeah, let's see what happens there, but that's the next level up. But we need to clear the 56.97. You can see the bracket is right in there. So a little back and forth and filling here would be, I don't know, acceptable. It gets expected. And it's setting up in that way. Looks okay. Dow also made a new high. We were watching this earlier when the triangle was forming right in there, and we were waiting to see which way the triangle would break. And we had a retest here before moving higher. So we're starting to settle. If we can get above this 41, 348, I think it's in a much stronger place to go up and test the 42,600 level. And that's pretty much it for the Dow. Let me see what other charts I have here. Well, here's the 30-minute. This is probably useful today. So the big level we were talking about earlier was this 56.58. The fact that we have to kind of settle above it before anything, we can expect anything big out of this. Now that we settle above 55.66, so we settle above that, came up here, started to, behave like, this is turning into some kind of a mean reversion level. And eventually, after a couple of backing and filling at our key levels, like yesterday, we were watching 55.94. We came within a couple of points, close enough, right? Came back up and moved higher. And I think that was the flush. We took out these old lows that were in place, had to flush that out, got on top, and eventually, and another retest today, earlier today, at the 56.58 level, right in that, right where the support should be. And we bounced up to 57.28. So you see, just like we saw in the daily, this is sort of, this is a 30-minute, but we can see how it's also starting to make some higher lows and higher highs and starting to grind it out. And it is a grind, this is no easy, this is not for the weak, that's for sure. So, the theme is basically the same. Long as we can hold above this 56.58, 56.48 at the worst, we can still, the bounce is still to the upside. And getting stuck here, sure, we came right into the zone and we're, some selling came in. But this is the key. Just watch this level. Unless we break down and counter trends get stuck below 56.48, 58 area down here, I think the market's in pretty good shape. So yeah, I think you just have to trade it like that. The next big level that we talked about, like even on the dailies, is 57.50. See if we can get on top of that somehow. Up until then, we'll just deal with each level as it comes. Anything you want to add to that, Ben?
No, I think you got to watch those levels because
Hmm.
failure here may be a nice setup. If we keep going,
Hmm.
it's easy. We stay above the level and you can keep trading the long side. But let's watch for failure in this window that's coming up.
Right. All right. So that's it for the S&P. And let me just quickly thumb through a couple of other charts. Bonds, we talked about nothing's really changed from last week. We talked about it going trading lower, and it looks like it's doing that. Crude, I was funny enough, I was talking about, well, if we get a higher low, we're still in pretty good shape. And sure enough, it's definitely pushing it, but it's a higher low. And this is still fine, a flush is what we wanted. And let it hang around. This is fine. What we want to watch for is what the next step is. We want to see it clear 62 and then eventually 65. And I think that would give us the cushion that we need and sort of the proof. Gold, well, we ran back up to the 450 degrees up, 34.30. I mean, this is the key level to really watch. If we triangulate here, it looks like we'll have another leg up, just like all the other triangles gold's had on the way up. So watch for that triangle. It could be forming. Not quite there yet. Silver really couldn't take out 33.63. We've been watching that as resistance. So far, it's consolidating nicely above this 31.56 level. Copper, let's just say it's holding its own about the 50% level at 1247 is a 50% level.
Like a lot of the commodities, man, it's winding up, huh?
Mhm. I think you're absolutely right. They're all kind of winding up,
Hmm.
and this is not the time to sort of take the eye off the ball here. And we found resistance at the 60-degree level and pulled back. Didn't quite get to the 50% level, so it's kind of like talked and ready. The other market we talked about last week and great interest was the dollar, and I talked about how this little the actual 90 was over here in April, and then this was a false break, and looks like we're making higher highs and higher lows coming off of that. And as long as we're above that, I was expecting it to sort of grind higher. And of course, we were kind of sitting around all week, and today it started to move higher. Okay, so well, it's starting to move higher, so we'll see. Now, the counter trends will pretty much tell the story. We'll have to watch how they hold. If we can hold above these old highs here, if you look at the structural support around 20, 100.
Man, that call you made when we couldn't get below the 50% of the square was really good.
Yeah, thanks. Well, this is what we have to do, right? We have to
Yeah.
catch them as is in real time. And I talked about why I thought that was a valid point and that we ought to turn. It was in one of the older videos, probably one before last, so you guys can check that out. And sure enough, the euro, we had everything drawn up, right? we had the zone where it should be reversing. Then later we added and we had the time count earlier, but then we added the Gartley box, and sure enough, it terminated pretty much where it should, kind of in the sweet spot. And triangle broke to the downside, so I think we're good. I really don't see these getting taken out anytime soon. So, if it's trending, don't get in the way. Just trade away. Hang Seng, not much. It never really looked back after that tariff flow. Uh, Pretty healthy. I think that was a very good telltale sign. Just watching this every week, see what's happening and talking about it. So now 22,709, you can see we're stepping. You can see how we gapped above it today and came back and resting right on top of it. So everything looks pretty much like we've been talking about, how we've been reviewing and looking at the charts and interpreting that, all of the price action that's happening. But I think we're okay. And if you guys have the levels and the comments to go with it, let's go cover the NASDAQ, Bitcoin, very interesting, and some other things. Let me put it back to you.
Nice world run.
Thanks.
Round the bases in 30 seconds.
Got to do it when you got to do it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, wait, at 20,000, 19, what, 19, 925, 20. I mean, that's your level there.
That's the key, right?
And we're just grinding it through. Look at that.
the man for 5, 6 days, for about a week, we've been crisscrossing it. Today, we got the
Hmm.
first bar where we got an entire bar on the line or above.
Hmm.
So that's bullish, right? As long as we stay above 19,925, the next level is the 20,640.
Right.
So that looks to be where we're headed. Now, obviously, if tomorrow we crisscross it, that's off the table. Or if we get a bar stuck below it, we get below it and get stuck below it, then it's the other way. The thing
Hmm.
I want to point out that we did some posts today on X about this is timing wise. If you go from the high in March before the big decline, or sorry, February 18th before the big decline, and you go 90 calendar days out, it takes us to May 19th. If you go 45 calendar days from the low, it takes us to May 22nd. If you go 108 from the high, the all-time high back in December, takes us to May 15th. So we've got
Hmm.
really good timing counts coming up.
What do they call it? Cluster of time.
And they're clustering. Yep,
Hmm.
which is what we like to see. And so it doesn't mean, oh, we're definitely going to make a high and you got to sell it there. You got to watch how we get there, like how do we get into that time frame, and then how do we come out of it. But it's certainly something to be aware of and something to notice, because even though it doesn't feel like it's late May yet, we're only at what? Today's May 8th. Basically, the week of the 19th is 6 trading days away. So we're not that far away, and we have this cluster coming up. And the same cluster, weren't talking about NQs on X today. We were talking about the SPX. It's the same type of cluster. So these important, you know, sort of cardinal time windows are coming up that we really have to watch and be aware of price action there.
Right.
So far, it's still bullish, and we could
Hmm.
certainly rise up into that. Which, if we do, then we'd look for evidence. Did we square out? We're in the time frame we know, but did we square out? Did we fail at resistance? Where are we? And then we can
Hmm.
assess what the risk reward is at that point. But I wanted to
Hmm.
to make sure people are aware of, in the next week or so, there's going to be a pretty important time cluster coming up that we want to be aware of. The technicals right now are bullish, so the next important level is the half square, and in that same neighborhood is this, the rebound high on the way down, which was on March 26th. So there should be decent resistance in here, in addition to running into this overhead. So we want to watch, if we do get up there, how does price act, and how does it handle all those levels that it's going to be running into. Let's take a look at the weekly. On the weekly, we have an interesting thing, is that we've got 22 weeks from the high in December to the next timing, which is the same week. This week of March 24th is 22, which is half of the 45. It's a half square essentially. So again, we've got weekly timing here. If we really get frisky and run up, this, and we could square out here, that would be nice. So like around 21,000 in the next, you know, 6, 7 trading days, eight trading days. That would give us a good square. So we'll watch that and see if the 22-week timing has any hold there. You could see the last time we did a 22 high to high here, Barry, from the July high to the
Hmm.
to the December high.
Right. Right.
So if
That's
we did
a
another 22 from here to here, bingo.
that would be something.
Yep, be the
And
mirror
then
image.
22 down to make a good 45 from high to low.
Exactly. Yeah, come down in here, square out down here. Now all we got to do is get the
Hmm.
market to do it.
Yep.
All right. It's early in the month still, but let's take a look at the monthly. We've made a higher high this month. So we now have an up bar for the month so far. Uh, if we put in one up bar, let's say, and reverse that in June, that would not be very bullish, because that would be a one bar pullback. So that's it for me on the cues. Anything you want to add before we jump over to Bitcoin?
Well, I think all the indices are kind of tracking the same way. So I think
Mhm.
and good coverage. So we'll watch those levels.
Watch the levels and watch the time windows. Those are
Hmm.
coming up. All right, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been very bullish. We talked about this on the weekend show, and look what we got so far this week in the
Yeah,
four
look
days
at
this
that.
week. All right, we were struggling here at this 96.6, got below it for a few days, and then boom! Not only did we push through 96, but we also pushed through 102.
Hmm.
This looks like it wants to go up and test the all-time highs, actually. You know, and
Hmm.
let's see if the push continues. If tomorrow's bar, gives us a print that's on this line or above, then the path of least resistance is up to the 108, which is going to test these highs.
Right. Right.
And you'll see how it looks, why that's supported when we look at the weekly and the monthly.
Hmm.
We talked about this a few weeks ago. We finally pushed through, got a bar above. That means the magnet's 108. So now the daily and the weekly are both saying we're pushing to 108. So odds are we're going to go up there and test it,
Hmm.
um, and probably make a new all-time high. Let's take a look at the monthly. Monthly, we've got this full bar over 93. We said that's really important because it allows us to push up, to all-time highs, 111. So I'd say the table is set for all-time highs in Bitcoin. A new
Yeah.
all-time high coming up. Anything you see that would deter you from that feeling?
Not yet. Let's get to all-time highs first.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the next big test is how's it going to act at 108, right?
Exactly.
Do we
Exactly.
get up and get stuck here, or do we crisscross? Do we chop around and roll over, or can we
Hmm.
push through and sit on top?
Right.
And that'll tell us if this is a much bigger run or just a run back up here to test. But all in all, Bitcoin looks constructive.
Hmm.
I don't see anything that would dissuade me from jumping in on Bitcoin.
I mean that recovery at 85,000, what is it, 280?
That was the key, right?
That was
This
yeah, yeah,
triangle,
yep, yep. That was
about
impressive.
about a 10-day triangle, and then once it broke that, it was gone.
Hmm.
And you can see I mean, this is a perfect. Even though Bitcoin is wild and people think, oh, it's this newfangled security, the vibrations and the squares work really well on it, and you can see that, all the different levels that you can trade against on this thing.
Hmm.
And where you can assess odds. Like we knew that, okay, we're triangulating here. It could go either way, right? It could have broken down, it could have broken up, but once it broke up, we knew the pressure was to the upside.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then here we captured this level, pressure to the upside. Now we blew right through this on this next move. And
Hmm.
now the key level is this 102.
Right.
Stay above that, then it's 108, and then this is when we'll figure out what its real intentions are. If the run is just starting, or if it's just going to go up and peekaboo it and false break it or something. But that's it for me. Anything else you wanted to quickly cover, Barry, or are we good?
I think we're good. I think, the pattern I'm kind of seeing is one of, well, a lot of volatility, I think, in May. And I mean, we're already kind of seeing that, but I think it's going to be more. Maybe not daily volatility necessarily, but I think we have the potential to have wide range here. So just watch out for
And,
that.
and this chop we've seen, this like in the ES particularly, this like 120 point range we've been in for a week now. Do you attribute that to like an indecision? Are we going to keep going up? Are we going to turn back down? What do you when you
I think
look
it's
at
sort
that?
of, well, my gut feel is it's sort of a wind up. And I think,
Mhm.
we have to, obviously, if we do inside, well, if we have an inside week, next week is going to be easy. I mean, tomorrow, if we stay within the boundaries, then next week we'll be watching to see if the high or low this week is going to be taken out.
Mhm.
And so that's going to be the key, right? So if the low gets taken out, then obviously we're going for a ride into one of
Yeah.
those dates. Maybe that they could be lower, low.
Yeah, I mean,
you
we've
know?
got that date window coming up. We've got a rebel yell on the front end of that,
Hmm.
so that that's kind of flagging that period as going to be, really important in terms of what's price action going into that, and then what is price action coming out of that, because
Yeah.
I think the directional change could occur or an acceleration could occur in that window.
Right. Right.
So we want to be aware of that and we want to stay on top of it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
so that's, as we said, this was going to be abbreviated. It is the weekend show. We are both traveling, so it's hopefully gave you a nice update, gave you fresh levels to look at and know which ones are important. Please, like, subscribe, set the alerts because YouTube will populate the video more as that happens. So if you
Hmm.
guys could do that and help us, we'd appreciate it. We really enjoy helping others and doing this. And if you could do that back, that would be terrific. But I'll see you, Barry, after the weekend travels, and
Hmm.
we'll be checking our phones to to see if those important levels are being breached while we travel. But otherwise, we'll be ready to rock and roll next week.
Sounds good. Good job. And yeah, safe travels. And you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.